Chapter 9, Study Sessions. Chapter 9, Study Sessions. Harry stared slack-jawed at Hermione as Neville finished his tale. No wonder Jim had seemed so subdued as he left the headmaster's office. "I hope you won't think it forward of me, Hermione, but will you marry me?"
"Back off, Potter,"
said Neville with mock gruffness. "I saw her first." Harry, Neville, and the other children laughed while Hermione blushed once more, but with a smile. Then they set to work. For the first 30 minutes, Hermione led a review of their transfiguration homework. Everyone had been impressed when she'd accomplished the feat of transfiguring her matchstick into a needle on the first day. But when she explained her thought processes as they applied to McGonagall's methods, several of the others quickly made the same cognitive leap. Harry was able to transfigure a matchstick as well as Hermione after just a few minutes, while all the others, save Neville, made significant improvement. The boy was somewhat dejected by that, as Hermione was certain his wand movements were correct, but he was still unable to do more than make the matchstick a little silvery in hue. Shaking off his frustration, Neville took over the session next, answering everyone's herbology questions with ease. Then came Harry, who apparently was the only one capable of deciphering Quirrell's awful stutter into coherent notes. Harry and Hermione jointly covered charms, and then, to Harry's surprise, Lavender Brown led the discussion on potions. Apparently, despite her flighty personality, she came from a long line of potions masters, and her family held the patents on several cosmetics-related potions, and also the valuable European concession on some Asian haircare product called Sleekeasy. Remembering Snape's final words that morning, Potter resolved to ask her about it later. After 2 grueling hours, the group broke up, but everyone seemed interested in continuing to meet again on Tuesdays and Fridays for the foreseeable future. Harry, Neville, and Hermione stayed behind to chat after the others had left.
"That went rather well,"
said Hermione.
"Do you think this group is the right size, or should we try to add anyone else?"
"We can go a little bigger if we have the right people,"
said Harry.
"Anthony Goldstein is good in astronomy. Apparently his dad is a Muggle astronomy professor. There's a puff named Finch Fletchley who is fascinated with wizarding history and actually stays awake in Bin's classes. Personally, I'd like to add Susan Bones, but that's for political networking reasons, so don't think you have to let her in just to appease my evil Slytherin ways."
Neville rolled his eyes.
"No Slytherins to add then, and I guess I should ask, is it going to cause problems for you to study with us?"
He shook his head.
"I'm heir presumptive of an important house. I'm in a wonderfully antagonistic relationship with the boy who lived, and I've been cultivating a reputation as an eccentric loner. It shouldn't be a problem, but it's unlikely any other Slytherins will join us, at least not unless we start trouncing them in class work."
Hermione hesitated before asking.
Is it because a mudblood is leading the group?"
Harry sighed.
"Well, I wouldn't use that word, but yes, probably. There aren't any Muggleborns in Slytherin at all, not unless one of the half-bloods is running a spectacular bluff. There are 2 half-bloods in our year besides myself, Davis and Bulstrode, and a pureblood whose family never served you-know-who, but I don't think any of them will risk alienating the older purebloods, many of whom are openly bigoted. And to be blunt about it, yes, Draco Malfoy and Pansy Parkington would probably call you a mudblood to your face if no teachers were around. Crabbe and Goyle are basically appendages to Malfoy and will follow his lead. And honestly, I still have no idea about Zabini. He just floats around like some kind of social ninja." "What's a ninja?"
asked a perplexed Neville. Harry started to answer and then paused, looking equally perplexed.
"You know, it's funny, but I actually have no idea how to explain ninjas to someone who's never seen a Muggle movie or television show. Let's just say a really mysterious, sneaky person, and leave it at that."
"And not..."
asked Hermione.
"I saw your exchange with him before you came over. When he looked at me, he didn't seem hateful, more like sad than anything else."
"Theo's a special case. I'm still working on him."
He hesitated.
"I don't want to start any unfounded rumors, so I'd appreciate it if you keep this to yourself. But I'm afraid that if it got back to Theo's father that he'd been hanging out with Muggleborns and blood traitors."
Harry made air quotes around those words.
"He might face physical consequences."
Neville shook his head, while Hermione gasped.
Surely not. I thought heirs of pureblood families were protected from things like that.
Presumptive heirs, Hermione.
Replied Neville.
Not has an older brother at Durmstrang. That means Theo's not the heir presumptive, so he doesn't really have much protection from his father. I can sympathize.
The boy hesitated and looked slightly pained.
I've never told anyone this, but when I was younger, my great-uncle Algy sort of tried to kill me twice.
Harry's eyes goggled at that, while Hermione looked concerned.
You said at the welcoming feast that when you were 8, your uncle accidentally dropped you out of a window and you bounced.
She said.
Yeah.
He said somewhat bitterly.
And before that, there was that time accidentally he knocked me off Blackpool Pier. I nearly drowned before he fished me out. Officially, well, officially they were both accidents. Unofficially, it was understood that he was trying to scare me into using accidental magic. I told that story at the feast because everyone was telling amusing tales about how they found out they were magical, and I got nervous and told the only one I had. But I've always wondered about it because, as it turns, if I'd actually died, Uncle Algy would have gone from just being my regent until I turned 15 to inheriting the whole estate outright. And no one considered prosecuting him for attempted murder.
Asked Harry.
What's to prosecute? It's basically legal to deliberately endanger a child from a Wisengamot family if it's for purposes of provoking accidental magic, provided there's been no sign of it before and the child's at least 4 years old.
He hesitated.
Sometimes I wonder if that's why my magic is so weak. My parents were both powerful wizards, but I almost never had accidental magic, and well, I'm struggling in all my wand magic classes. I wonder if there was some trauma related to what he did to me that stunted my magical development.
That's awful.
Exclaimed Hermione, earning another hiss from Madame Pince.
Do you mean to tell me I've entered a culture where it's acceptable to endanger children just to make them demonstrate magic? That's barbaric.
To be fair, there is a Wizarding Child Services department in the Ministry that looks after the health and welfare of Muggle-born, half-bloods, and even purebloods of lesser families. It's just barred by law from questioning the treatment of children who are from Wisengamot families, but who aren't established as heirs presumptive, which I wasn't until my magic saved me from that fall. From what I can tell, I was kind of an unusual case because most wizarding children show some sign of magic in early childhood. Anyway, our system of government depends on keeping as many Wisengamot seats filled as possible, especially ancient and noble seats. As far as the law is concerned, if I'd been a squib, it would have been better for me to have died young so that the Longbottom seat could more quickly pass to an actual wizard. Honestly, you as a Muggle-born have a lot more legal protections than Theodore not. He could be kicked out onto the street tomorrow, or worse, on his father's whim. You can see now, Hermione, why I've been studying this stuff like mad.
Said Harry.
By leaving me with the Dursleys and not looking after me, the Potters and the headmaster violated several centuries-old laws.
He turned back to Neville.
And not to change the subject, but you seem rather well-informed about Theo's home life. I can make some educated guesses.
Neville looked around the library to make sure they were not being observed.
Last summer, Gran made me study files she'd had drawn up on all the children I'd be at Hogwarts with whose parents were either known or suspected Death Eaters. She has a personal grudge against the Malfoys for what the Lestranges did to my parents, but as far as specific crimes, Lucius Malfoy wasn't even that bad. He was accused of bribery, financially supporting a terrorist group, and misdemeanor Muggle baiting. If he took the dark mark of his own free will rather than while under the Imperious Curse, then he probably murdered at least one Muggle, but that's basically unprovable. He's an arrogant, bigoted snob, but compared to most suspected Death Eaters, he's relatively harmless.
Neville leaned forward intently.
Tiberius Nott, on the other hand, was accused of all that plus murdering a dozen Muggle-borns, and Merlin knows how many Muggles. The killings usually were, well, extremely violent. Gran called him a psychopath and said he was probably the worst Death Eater to not get put into Azkaban.
Why wasn't he if he was that bad?
Hissed an astonished Hermione.
You can thank Sirius Black. His trial transcripts are still sealed, but according to the information that was released to the press, he confessed to putting over 24 Wisengamot members under the Imperious for you-know-who, including Malfoy, Goyle, Crabbe, Parkinson, and Nott. That got all of them off the hook in spite of them carrying dark marks. Grand Figures Black knew he was done for, so he took the blame for all the suspected Death Eaters who hadn't been caught red-handed. "Is it possible to see those press accounts?"
asked Harry. Hermione pointed across the room to an upper floor.
They've got bound copies of the Prophet doing back decades at least.
Harry nodded. That would be something else to add to his studies, which already included his normal class work